stuff that goes on in the background. So you could have the same situation happen in 2 different days, but whatever way your day was on Monday or whatever way it was on Tuesday can totally change how you react to something. I let things go and I let it go and I let it go and I let it go, and then I'll have a moment where I just snap, and I don't know if that's the best way to deal with things. We were all sitting there eating and I was like, by the way, I feel anxious. And they were like, do you want us to do anything? And I was like, no, I just had to say it because when I get it out, it feels like I'm not keeping the secret, and then it'll kind of fizzle away.
Welcome to P&P, the Partners in Positivity podcast, where
Aisling Burnett
and myself, Sarah Harty, warriors of EBP, SBP, DHBs, that's emotionally bulletproof, spiritually bulletproof, divine human beings, aim to wake up and shake up the nation through positivity, humour and shared wisdom.
Welcome to episode 68, and I just want to go back over a few of the reviews that we've received up until now because we are so grateful for it. So a podcast will be nothing without the listeners, so thanks so much for all your feedback, and feel free to drop in a new one if you would like. So Shauna Harris said, hey, listen to your podcast, fair play to you girls, so good of you to help and inspire others, well done. Thank you so much, Shauna. Thanks, Partners in Positivity, for this week's quote. Don't take advice from someone you wouldn't gladly exchange places with. Thanks so much, Fiona Power. And one more. Let me see. Loving P&P and has made me do a lot of soul searching and thinking. Evelyn Joyce Kelly, aka EJK. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much, that's gorgeous. Wow, full of gratitude now for those pieces of feedback. Thanks for reading that out, Ash. Great. So welcome to part 2 of a 4-part series we're having with the gorgeous Ava Hennessy, who's a very, very soulful person, sharing what sharing with us from the depths of her heart, soul, every part of her being, what it means to be emotionally bulletproof. So that's the theme of the series. So on this part of the series, part 2, we're going to chat about whether to transform or change your emotion, or transform or act on your emotion. Why are you laughing at?
I'm just getting giddy now. I guess it's an emotion.
Fantastic. Great. So we'll have a chat about that. Girls, what are your feelings about, what are your emotions about whether we should transform our emotion or act on it first?
I feel like it depends on the situation and what we were saying earlier about reacting without actually understanding what's going on. Like, I do try my best to calmly think about something, and I actually feel like my brother's the exact same as me. I let things go and I let it go and I let it go and I let it go, and then I'll have a moment where I just snap, and I don't know if that's the best way to deal with things, but it's just the way I am. I feel like I'm very understanding and I try and see things from other people's point of views, but there's only so many times you can take the high road, or so many times that you can be the bigger person, like you were saying earlier. So I think one thing that I'm trying to do now is to just be honest with myself, and if somebody in a situation says or does something that I didn't like, express it, because you're aware of it, you're saying how it made you feel, and then it's up to them to respond to you whatever way they want.
Yeah.
But that's just something that I'm trying to be more aware of, is how I feel, and as well not to take things so personally, because people project a lot. Like we were talking about this outside of the podcast, that if someone says or does something that was offensive to you, it's more to do with them than it is to do with you.
Yeah.
So even understanding that helps to not be so reactive.
Yeah. Yeah, but it can be hard at times,
Definitely.
So many things over the course of your lifetime anyway, and look, we're very young.
But we're all human, we all have stuff that goes on in the background, so you could have the same situation happen in 2 different days, but whatever way your day was on Monday or whatever way it was on Tuesday can totally change how you react to something, or like how you're feeling. So yeah.
I noticed that myself, just exactly what you said about depends on the day. Like, I'm living at home now with my father, and we have good days and bad days like everybody else. But I did notice like one or two things that in my mind I was getting irritated about in the house. 3 days later I wasn't irritated. So I was like, that's actually a change in me rather than changing the circumstance. So what's actually true in that for me? Do I act on it or do I not? Because I know in a couple of days' time it mightn't bother me again. But it really depends. I think our cycles have a lot to say as well for ourselves as women.
As well,
but
sleeping on things, that's something I've tried to do now. I used to like think, okay, I want to say this to this person. Let's just say if it was in a message. So I'd write it out in my notes.
Yeah.
I'd go to sleep, and then the next day I'd look at it and be like, God, I'm so happy I didn't send that, because I was totally emotional and just pouring out and offloading. But then I'd read it back and be like, do you know what, I actually don't need to send that. So I think about it for 24 hours, go back and either wouldn't send it or I'd edit it. Or if I still felt the same, I would send that.
Yeah.
So I think maybe even time, like you were saying, because you could feel totally different the next day.
Yeah.
So just see.
One of the greatest messages I think both of us learned about emotions in seminars when we were in Europe was that when emotions go up, IQ goes down. So you can be highly emotional, but you're not as sensible, I suppose, in a way, or not applying your best intelligence in the moment. And that's okay too. It's like the emotions have taken over and we're not actually our best selves, and you know, letting ourselves simmer and a couple of days looking at it again is such a good tool, you know. So that's great. That's a great one. We also, do you remember we read this book, Living with Time to Think by Nancy Klein, and there was a full chapter dedicated to, and the title of it was Wait Until Thursday, or Until Thursday.
Exactly. Yeah, wait until Thursday.
Wait until Thursday. And the whole idea was just, no matter what happens, wait until Thursday and then see how you feel about it then. If you want to act, do then, but wait until Thursday. It was lovely, like, lovely chapter. How about you, Ash?
It was gorgeous, like, but it actually is challenging, isn't it? Like, because it could be only Sunday and you might be having this issue, and then let's say I talk to Sarah and then we'd be chatting about what's going on and she'd say, wait until Thursday, and I think, oh my God, that's like 4 days away. That's crazy, like. But it is right, like, normally you do calm down, life goes on, and you don't feel the same on the Thursday, like.
And I think if you do act out and you're not happy with yourself, to let it go, or to not be hard on yourself. Like, we all make mistakes or get annoyed, or things happen every day.
Or how many times has someone gotten drunk and all the emotions come out, the wall comes down? It's funny, like, it's like you hold yourself back a lot. But yeah, I think that's even a good point for experiencing other people. You know, if someone snaps at you or gets upset or angry, like, just to think, you know, that's not all directed at me.
Yes.
And just to give people, you know, I didn't know what way I was going to wear that there, but to understand where they're coming from. It's not like you've done something bad, they're annoyed at something, but there might be other things going on under the surface.
That's a great one. It's like that story of a man going down into like a railway station where the kids are acting out, but he's like numb to the world, not correcting them, and the kids are like annoying people, or, you know, shouting or screaming and disturbing the peace and stuff like that. And the man reading the newspaper reaches over and says to him, you know, why don't you get the kids to quieten down? Like, they're disturbing people here. And then he just turned around and said, their mother's just after dying a couple of hours ago. I don't actually know how to handle the situation myself. But there's lots of stories like that to give you perspective on what the other person could be going through. And I think they're really important to remember. But we all, like, we're human, we get caught up in things. And
do you know what's funny as well? I don't know if you relate to this, but I find that whatever mood I'm in, I attract similar people. So, like, if I'm in a real funny mood and I'm having the crack, I'll attract people that are just a bit, like, out there, you know, a bit mad or whatever. But then there was one day that I was really moody inside in Tesco, and I was just all over the place, anxious, bags falling everywhere, huge queue. And then an old man shouted at me in the queue, and I was like, I totally attracted that because I'm giving off this awful energy. He said I was standing too close to him. It's like, do you know what, fair enough. I wouldn't want my energy from you.
A lot happens in the queues of supermarkets.
And you know, when you're in a happy, good mood, all this it's just, I don't know, I think it's mental how you can attract situations depending on what your mood is.
Yes.
Like, you know, the law of attraction, like you get out of the bed and you stub your toe and then you're in a bad mood, and then it just spirals into the worst day of your life.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, next day, please.
I'd like to cancel today.
I always, I don't know how I felt at the time, but I'm saying this looking back as a teenager. I despise bullying. Like, it's one thing now, if I could eradicate it off the planet, I would. But as a young person in secondary school, I do remember just, maybe I had a huge level of empathy, but I didn't realise it. I remember looking at people that were bullying others, thinking, I feel okay, like I'm alright, like I'm happy enough, school's okay, like it's boring, but I remember thinking, now, I don't feel the need to treat someone badly. And I was like, there must be something wrong with them if they're doing that. But I couldn't suggest what it was. But I remember just thinking, so I feel like I was never bullied because I never felt anything bad for the bullies. I just remember thinking, oh God, the poor devils, there must be something seriously wrong. Yeah. Like I'd never feel.
There is.
I never
feel
had
like in general with people like that, like it makes me uncomfortable watching someone be bullied as well.
Yeah.
Like there's a difference between speaking up against something that someone has done to you or just picking on someone for no reason.
Yeah,
and I was the same in school. I used to get an awful feeling in my stomach. I'd feel really awkward if I saw it happening. Or like, you know, if I accidentally say something that I know has upset someone, I can feel that. Yeah. And then I'd be like, oh, even if you don't mean it. So yeah, I can't stand watching that either. It makes me sick.
Yeah. This is it. So to transform or to act on emotion?
To transform, I feel like it's almost a trick question, because if you act on it, you're going to transform it anyway.
Oh yeah.
Let's say like you're angry and you say it, then it's just going to dissipate. Or if you transform it, if you transform something, then you'll act but in a different way. Like
you'll still act, but it'll be a different emotion.
I feel like I'm quite passive, so I'd probably transform first and then act. I think.
There's no right or wrong answer. I think it's your own best judgment, like the wait until Thursday thing, or sometimes you might need, like in situations like you talk about bullying, like maybe you will need to be highly emotional to be able to build up the energy in you to deal with the situation. You know, or maybe someone won't listen to you and you might need to raise your voice to be heard to get through that situation onto the next, like. So
'cause I feel like with different emotions, like we'll say, you know, in the last episode I talked about if I'm having a bad day, I just allow myself to have it. But I feel like it takes time to figure this out with yourself. But some days, let's say if I feel really anxious or I'm feeling a bit down, going to the gym might help and burn it off, or going to the gym might make it worse. I might go in and be too tired to do anything and then be beating myself up even more. So I think like recently I just really talk to myself, and if I'm feeling a bit weird or just tired, you know, sometimes you just run down. But I got up to go to the gym and I was brushing my teeth, and then just something in me said, no, go back into bed. So that's what I did. And then the next day I got up and went to the gym. Do you know, it's like trying to be more in tune with how you're feeling and what do you need to either let it play or run its course, or can you do something that's going to help you snap out of it now?
Some theorists or thought leaders say to sit with it, you know, try not push away the emotion, like,
because it'll just come back.
To be okay with it, whatever you're feeling.
What form of self-care do you need on that day? Do you need the gym, or do you need rest
and some snacks?
And a hug from a friend.
And I've tried meditating, I've tried journaling and stuff like that, and it's honestly just not for me. I can force myself to do it and I will feel good afterwards, but it's not something that I feel ever comes natural to me. It's not something that I enjoy doing. Well, I suppose sometimes you just need to get into the habit, but I always found that like I was forcing myself to sit down and meditate, and I felt great afterwards, but it's not something that I ever want to do when I feel anxious.
Yeah.
So again, I suppose it's just finding like what works for you might be different for someone else, or
Exactly.
And I think people need to hear that as well, because meditation, it's such a buzzword these days that like everyone's meditating, and some people just sit down and it nearly gets worse for them, and they get frustrated that they can't just quiet their mind or something.
That would be me, because my mind races non-stop. Like I actually, when I started therapy, my counsellor asked me to go and get tested for ADD, because I was saying that when I was going to bed I couldn't switch my brain off and I wasn't able to sleep. Obviously during the pandemic so much was happening, and she was saying her son was the same, and she was like, you know, sometimes the ADHD with women doesn't really get picked up because a lot of women don't have the hyperactivity, but their brain is doing the same thing.
Yes.
So when I try and meditate, I know everyone's thoughts race and that's normal, but like you were saying, it actually would frustrate me more sometimes, because I'm like, why can't I just stop thinking? But my brain is just wired that way. So sometimes going to the gym or dancing or walking or listening to music helps me burn it off physically, instead of trying to do it mentally.
That's brilliant actually. And in the next series we're going to talk about all the different tools that we could use or apply when we want to switch our emotion or make us feel that little bit better. So that's brilliant. Thanks for starting that conversation. So just to recap, so we chatted about transforming or acting on your emotion. What you said, I think, Ash, was brilliant. You said about that regardless whether you're focused on transforming or acting on the emotion, they're going to change anyway. Like everything is in a state of change, so hang in there, you know, if you don't know what to do with the emotion, is what I got from that. Anything else you want to add?
No, I don't think I have anything else to add. I think it's really just, if you can, I suppose actually, no, I do, like, don't feel like you have to do something, because you know, if you're not feeling good, someone might say, oh, go for a walk, or like watch something funny, but that's what they might do. That might not necessarily work for you. So I think figuring out what does help and what you enjoy doing, like, figure that out and do what's good for you, because everyone is different. And actually, like I was saying, if I was tormented one day with overthinking, meditation actually won't help me, whereas getting out of the house probably would. But maybe somebody else might want to stay at home. So just do what you feel is right. You don't need to do something because you think you're supposed to do it, because that's even worse, because you're thinking, oh, well, I thought if I meditated now I'd feel better, and I don't, so what's wrong with me? So I think it's just important to find your own way of dealing through
managing it. That's exceptional wisdom. Thanks for sharing that. The last thing I would say is, there is a guy called Alan Watts. He's got YouTube videos from decades, maybe a century ago, I'm not sure, but he's brilliant. But he has a great YouTube video about all your emotions being valid. Like, every emotion you have is valid. It exists in the world, it exists in you, it's allowed to be there. And like a tree or a plant or something that grows outside, anything that exists in the planet is valid. However, it is about how you act on that emotion. What do you do with your feelings? You know, how do you treat people? How do you treat yourself? And we can grow and change and evolve. But I think it's okay to feel whatever you feel, basically.
Can I just say as well, that just reminded me of something. I've suffered with anxiety a lot over my life. And it's not really something that I experience that much anymore. But on days where if I'm hungover or something like that, I do get anxious. Or randomly, I mean, I might not know why. But one thing that helps me is to tell whoever I'm with. Because when I was a teenager and I used to go through panic attacks and anxiety, I thought there was something wrong with me, and that I was weird, and that it wasn't a normal thing to happen. So I'd stay quiet, and then I'd get weirder and weirder. And when I say weird, I just mean I wouldn't be myself. And I went to visit my friend recently, and we were all sitting there eating, and I was like, by the way, I feel anxious. And they were like, do you want us to do anything? And I was like, no, I just had to say it, because when I get it out, it feels like I'm not keeping the secret. And then it'll kind of fizzle away. And my friend said, I'm really happy you said that, because we might have thought that you were off with us, or that we'd said something. So that's just one thing that helps me get over it quicker, like go through the anxieties, to just verbally say that I feel anxious, but I don't need anything, just so you all know.
I actually got goosebumps with you explaining that. I think it's such a beautiful thing to do, because however the people feel on the day, it's given them permission to be themselves and feel whatever they feel at any occasion.
And if you had pain in your stomach, you'd probably say that, or if you had a headache, you'd say that. It's just another feeling. Just because it's not a physical pain, it's still okay and normal.
Yeah. And I think that's important. Like, no, I don't actually need anything. Like, we can go into the mode of trying to fix each other, but sometimes it's just going to pass with time. Like
the wind. Yeah. Brilliant. Great. Thanks for having this chat today. That's the end of part 2 of our 4-part series on uncovering what it is to be emotionally bulletproof, and today we chatted about transforming or acting on your emotion. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you got something great from this. I certainly did, and we'll chat to you next week. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of our Partners in Positivity podcast. It means the world to us that you've tuned in. We hope we put a smile on your face or made you laugh. Maybe you got a little bit of wisdom from this, or hopefully you'll want to take an action in your life based on something positive you got from listening to our guest or listening to us. We absolutely value the work that we do, and we are going to continue to bring you more episodes week on week. If you don't know already, we do have a Ko-fi donation page, and it is ko-fi.com/partners in positivity, ko-fi.com. Feel free to donate, and we are so grateful for anyone that has donated so far.
Thanks, Sarah. And thanks to each and every one of you who tune in on audio and on YouTube to listen to us, to share all your good energy with us. And thanks for everything that you've done, whether it's a like on Instagram, sharing the podcast, nice comment, a review, coming and meeting us in person on our P&P hikes. We just love it all, and we are so grateful, and we cherish and adore each and every one of you. Thanks so much.